after the two presenters, and for anyone in the room, please just take a note of your questions, and there'll be an opportunity. We'll have a roving mic rolling up and down, trying to grab your questions. And for those people online, just pop your questions in the chat box, and we've got a team at the back that'll collate them all as well and curate them, just in case, you know, you're asking me something dodgy that I don't know. So some of these online questions will be chosen, and we'll answer those live as well. So we've got two speakers today. I'm absolutely delighted. We have Eleni Dimokidis. Did I say that right? I have been practicing. Who's come all the way from Singapore to be here with us now. Eleni is a health technology leader across Asia Pacific and Japan at AWS. She's a technology leader, legal advisor, my goodness me, it's a big list, holds very impressive qualifications in regenerative medicine, biotech, nanotech, law, computer science, and biomedical informatics. And honestly, I don't know what do you actually sleep at night, Eleni? But it's really very impressive. So she's going to present on the big picture developments of AI. So over to you, Eleni.
Welcome to Amazon Web Services. Can you hear me? Yes. I'm Dr. Algenes Aranha. I'm the healthcare technical lead across Asia Pacific and Japan. And today we're going to talk about and put our focus on deep medicine, which is an evolving landscape. And it's a paradigm shift that is shaped by the convergence, the integration of deep learning, generative AI, and also the clinical field. And this integration, what it does, it allows us to unlock and understand the patterns and the insights from the vast troves of health data that are accumulated by the national health systems. But when we're looking at the future and about how this potential of AI and data-driven national systems can actually unlock the sustainable future of healthcare, we have to also be cautious and think about, the future with some sort of necessary foresight. And when we think about the future, we have to ask all several questions, right? It raises different types of challenges. Can we ensure, for example, the accessibility, but also that we don't have, unconscious biases embedded in AI? Can we also think about the different degrees that potential future doctors might have to obtain, to understand this different ever-evolving landscape? Could it be, for example, that doctors might graduate from graduate schools that are in the domains of AI, medicine, also cloud computing? Or could it be that their AI assistant will have to acquire this knowledge for them, or part of this knowledge for them? And when we're thinking about the impact of AI on the job dynamics, we have to consider the different scenarios. Will it replace jobs, or will it actually become an indispensable personal assistant for all doctors that will allow them to have evidence-based information round the clock, anytime they need it, with also precision medicine and evidence-based data coming from peer-reviewed journals or directly from clinical trials? And so we're moving from this space, from the era of the Internet of Medical Things, into the era of AI-enabled everything. But before we move in, I want to also look into the future and look at the trends. And let me start by saying that no healthcare system, no national healthcare system, irrespective of its wealth or its digital readiness, can evade the revolution of artificial intelligence. So we have to think of the consequences of that. What does this mean if we, for example, here in Australia, we see this integration of AI with the clinical space as the dawn of the sixth industrial revolution that is ushering us into this sustainable future. But what does this mean for countries and nations that are low-income nations, and they're still grappling with legacy systems, and they are still paying their debt to the third industrial revolution, and they're paper-based? What does this mean, these disparities? So let me begin by showing you some current trends. We observe the integration of machine learning into electronic medical records to optimize doctor's appointments, scheduling, predicting patient length of stay, for example, and also to derive personalized medical insights. We also see a lot of AI chatbots that also appear in the medical domain. A lot of them are under now FDA approval, and they're used as virtual patient assistants per medical specialty. We witness a significant surge in generative LLM models, and they are trained on historical medical data, and their purpose is to also support the public health emergencies. So we have to also think through the way that we implement it through, for example, clinical command centers. We also observe monumental transformation in drug discovery and embrace the challenges and also the advancements in even a new field, the deep generative sequencing field, where essentially Gen AI can also be used for pathogenicity prediction, it can be used for molecular prediction, for molecular modeling, for synthetic gene design. And we also, of course, incorporate AI into patent drafting, into competitive patent landscape analysis, into dynamic patents, portfolio management, to also strategically position hospital systems or companies towards clinical trials, towards commercialization. And there are a lot of novel AI-driven clinical support systems pending FDA approval for evidence-based medicine aiming to reduce diagnostic errors. There is also another trend in precision medicine with digital twins and integrating augmented reality for surgical simulations. Transforming also radiology through AI-enabled medical imaging analysis that allows us to enhance diagnostic accuracy. And we also observe the rise of robotic AI assistants to manage nursing tasks and also to enable ubiquitous monitoring. And finally, we have the trend of smart sensor-enabled hospitals. What can these hospitals do? They can essentially control their environment in a smart, intelligent way, the consumption of energy, the water usage, also the different levels of temperature, especially when it comes to modalities that are temperature sensitive, and also having oversight of maintenance of these modalities as well. So there's a lot of different things. But now let's dive into the real world evidence, into different use cases from our customers around the world. And I will group innovations into 4 focus areas, the first one of which is the hospital efficiencies and automations. A notable use case is Harvard's hospital, the Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, that deployed using Amazon SageMaker several NLP and also deep learning models, and they tried to optimize essentially their operating room scheduling. They created automation such as identifying, for example, completed consent forms. They rendered them into structured data and embedded them automatically into their electronic medical records for those patients. And through these automations, they achieved 18% scheduling reduction. And we also have another example at Houston Methodist, which worked with AWS to create an ambient listen application. And essentially, they capture the dialogue of doctors and patients and during consultations. And this entire visit auto-generated transcripts and auto-generated structured data that were embedded directly into the electronic medical records without having to actually type any type of information. And moving on, of course, in the telehealth space, we have a lot of AI applications, AI-enabled applications. I have there Livongo, I have Talkspace, but I want to speak a little bit about Care Monitor, which is also the winner of Innovation Challenge by the Australian Digital Health Agency. And its unified telehealth platform allows for consolidation of different types of clinical care management system, and also it allows for a risk stratification that is automated, and continuous also monitoring of smart algorithms. And in the chatbot space, you can see there NUHS, which is the National University Hospital of Singapore, and it has deployed a chatbot which allows for digital queuing, for direct conversation with the patients, with evidence-based information. It allows for all sorts of different things, and of course the booking system with the doctors for triaging and many other efficiencies. So as we move forward, I want to say that at AWS, one of the things that we care about is to find the best and the brightest clinicians and work on projects that have impact and projects that can really solve complex, difficult issues and even rare diseases, things that most companies would not touch. And I want to bring a notable example here, which is coming from the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, which we believe that is a pioneering place. They have designed their own reference architecture, which is essentially a solution that is cross-disciplinary. They are aggregating data that are coming from genomics, from medical imaging, from the electronic medical records. They're using, as you see, AWS lake formation to amalgamate all this data. And through this, what they achieved is they have stored more than 1.5 petabytes of genomics data and imaging data in Amazon Health Lake, and their cloud architecture has facilitated researchers in visualizing synthetic cohorts. And they did data analysis, and they have successfully stored 26 billion occurrences of 215 million unique genomic variants of more than 5,000 patients. And so you can understand the scale and the depth of all these operations, and what does this mean for the advancements in medical research and science for children's diseases. And one more field that I think is very interesting is precision detection. And you see here Eon Health that uses the power and scalability of GPU-powered clusters from AWS, which are ideally suited for deep learning. And they created a machine learning model that is predicting malignancy risk for pulmonary lung cancers. We also heard HealthFlow and its innovative fractional flow reserve computed tomography that is allowing to use a deep learning so that you can recreate a personalized model of a 3D heart, and actually it enables the doctors to understand the impact of a blockage on the blood flow and decide which treatment is better. So another interesting innovation is Sky Health. This is coming from Korea. And it's developed an AI screening system that identify high-quality embryos more objectively, economically, and non-invasively. And essentially, through this deep learning algorithm that is classifying and grading the embryos, they have achieved higher pregnancy rates through their IVF by 65%. And as we move forward, I want to put a magnifying lens on medical research, which is part of the clinical world, right, of the clinical practice. And Allen Institute collaborates with AWS on the Brain Knowledge Platform, which is the largest initiative of its kind in the world. And you understand that there are a lot of complexities in order for you to understand and research the brain, and envision this as the first ever periodic table of mammalian brain. And what they do is that they're mapping the human cells, but also the relevant non-human primate cells, the different types of cell types as well of the brain, and also the correlations of these cells with different pathogenicities, and they're creating this brain atlas. And through this, they're using Amazon SageMaker to automate segmentation. They're also developing a scientific knowledge graph with Amazon Neptune, which are connecting the nodes between different types of knowledge. For example, genomic data with medical imaging data from CT scans or MRIs. And they recently integrate also generative AI. It's the first in the world to do this so early on. And they want to create inferences that human researchers will not be able to do otherwise. And of course, a very big space is also drug discovery, the pharmaceuticals, and there are a lot of great examples. 9 out of 10 actually of pharmaceuticals, of the top pharmaceuticals, are operating on AWS. You all know of Moderna. It actually started from day one on AWS. It's a cloud-first company, and this allowed them to scale fast their biomanufacturing processes, even the supply chain processes, to actually develop more than 2 billion dosages of the COVID-19 vaccine. But I want to highlight AstraZeneca here, because what they did is that they tried to resolve an issue on tissue sample labeling. And they created a machine learning model that allows them to automatically label all their tissue samples. And this resulted in reducing the time from the human researchers by 50%, so they don't have to do this manual tedious task. And moving on, I want to also highlight Munich Leukemia Lab. This is the leading global institute for leukemia diagnosis, which created with Amazon's Machine Learning Solutions Lab an automatic leukemia diagnosis pipeline, and they developed an innovative clinical decision support system which is based on next generation sequencing. And as an input to this ML model, they have inputted more than 5,000 whole genome sequencing and whole transcriptomic sequencing. And what this did is that for every single sample, for every given patient, this was converted into different features, and they had more than 70 vector of different features, and they had more than 70,000 different features that they created. And they used Amazon SageMaker and a multi-class classifier, and their model's performance managed to reach an accuracy of 82% on 5-fold cross-validation for different types of leukemia and cancers. So as you understand, this is really driving the frontiers of medical research. And moving on, we have Rush University Medical Center, which work with AWS, and they wanted to create a cloud-based analytics hub. And they used Amazon Health Lake, Amazon SageMaker, and this hub allows them to securely analyze patient admissions, discharges, but also different types of issues within the hospital operations, the hospital workflows. And they are using predictive models around social determinants of health in order across a particular area in Chicago, the west side of Chicago area, in order to identify and fill care gaps before they even appear. So they're doing predictive modeling across their population. And here, of course, I want to say that you've seen that we had a lot of different examples for machine learning, right? Machine learning is actually part of our AWS heritage. We have more than 20 years of experience with machine learning and more than 100,000 customers that are operating their machine learning workloads on AWS. And we have entered also the space of generative AI. We have introduced Amazon Bedrock, which allows you in a very easy way to scale and build large language models on the cloud. And also we had Party Rock, which was just announced last week. And Party Rock is what it says. You can actually rock and roll with generative AI. You can do really fast AI applications of any sort, of anything, on the cloud. I also want to mention Amazon SageMaker Canvas. If you're not techie at all and you don't know how to code, this is your service. It requires no code skills, no machine learning experience at all, and it is designed for clinicians and business analysts to be able to input data, don't use any code at all, and then get some machine learning predictions based on their hypothesis. So I didn't want to dive deep on the technical services, although I'm the technical lead, but I wanted to give you a glimpse of what is possible, what type of things we can demonstrate within the healthcare space. And so the first one I want to show you is about radiology report writing, which is the generation of automatic reports in radiology. And it's a time-consuming task. More than 10 minutes are used on average by a radiologist to assess a CT scan, an MRI, and provide and type in a diagnosis. So this is, especially for big hospital systems, this is extremely important. And here you can see we have developed, and you can use any type of different fancier UI, right, user interface to make it look even better. But this is essentially a bot that allows you to input a CT scan or an MRI and get automatically in real time generated the report. And another demonstration that I think is very interesting is how we can interact with a large language model with electronic medical records, and not just the medical records, but also structured and unstructured data types, FHIR compliant or non-FHIR compliant data types. And this allows, this chatbot, the Health Lake bot, is allowing clinicians or scientists and affiliated faculty to also search within a hospital's medical records, hospital network's medical record, or at the national level, search all the information that is de-identified, or that is masked essentially, and you can get information such as the prevalence of a particular disease, the prevalence of flu, and have real-time insights and real-time analytics. And finally, I want to show you also chatbot for cancer patients. This is an oncology chatbot, and what it does, it is sourcing its data from the NCI database, and it's allowing you to interact with it and get questions on chemotherapy, on different treatments, on particular rare cancers, on clinical trials that are around the world. And you can also have the information in lay words as well, so simplify them for your patients. And moving on, I want to discuss a little bit how we think of solutions that are likely to address low-hanging fruits, routine tasks, tedious tasks, administrative tasks in hospitals. How do you start, right? What are the easy applications that you can start with? And I want to reference AWS Health Scribe, which essentially it is a service that allows you to transcribe consultations between doctors and patients. And it also can extract the terminologies, create structured data, automatically upload this data into your medical record system. And this is happening in real time, right? And you also, this is part of the effort to, to help the physicians and minimize the burnout of both the nurses and the clinicians. And more advanced service is aerial pharmacy. You've seen here the service is based on drone technology and also advanced machine learning as well, which allows us to access patients in remote areas, in difficultly accessible areas, and provide them medications. And so this reduces the wait times, and it's democratizing access to critical medications for all patients. And moving forward, an even more advanced service is on the synergy of AI, ML, and also digital twin technology, which is empowering us to simulate a whole environment. It could be a whole hospital with its different wards, or even a whole city and its ambulatory system, and figuring out what are the scenarios at times of crisis. You can also simulate surgical theater operations, particular procedures. You can also use digital twins for medical training, so there are a lot of different uses. And here you can see AWS IoT Twin Maker, which is our service that makes it very easy for you to build digital twins and replicate real-world environments in the cloud. And here I want to also highlight Alexa for healthcare. It's a ubiquitous healthcare monitoring. And Alexa Smart Properties for healthcare can help free up the time of your staff, especially for hospitals that are having a high influx of patients. And it has different features, such as the drop-in feature, where you can get in any different room. And essentially, it is empowering also the patients to ask for different types of questions any given time. For example, what time the doctor will arrive at my ward, when my medication is going to arrive, when my exams and my tests from the pathology labs are going to arrive, if I want food as a patient, for example, if the temperature in my room is uncomfortable. So all of these things can be curated by Alexa. And this is also a project that allows you to have better quality of care and more the quality, based care as well. And I want to also wrap up this presentation and say that you can appreciate that there are a lot of different innovations, but I think the most important thing that allows, that the cloud can bring into clinical practice is the federated collaborative environment that it can create. And AWS facilitates the creation of a dynamic healthcare ecosystem. What this means is that every hospital can now create its own ecosystem with top, for example, scientific teams from universities, from medical research institutes, from CROs, from different partners from the industry across the board. And what you can do with AWS Clean Rooms is that you can analyze your data collaboratively all together without sharing your raw data. So you can keep your raw data in your environment, you don't have to move them, and you only do the analysis with your collaborators. And this is really freeing up the hands, especially in the healthcare space, of a lot of hospitals that currently are not taking advantage of the different type of data sets that they produce. And finally, I want to say that technology is not just about innovation, it's a lifeline that is bridging the gap between illness and recovery. We think that technology is working 24/7 for us, and it's a relentless worker, and it is allowing us to dream that therapeutic pathways can be achievable one algorithm at a time, one breakthrough at a time. And I want to close this presentation with this video, which is a source of inspiration across the entire AWS community.
Grayson was our first child.
We thought maybe something was a little bit off pretty early.
We were told the wait lists for diagnosis with autism are really long, and I think they've only gotten worse from friends that I've talked to now.
The computer can see things that the human eye simply can't see. But when I first started doing autism research, the average waiting time for a parent who's worried that their baby or child might have autism is about a year. And so the challenge was, how do we come up with an app to be able to detect those early symptoms of autism, such as not making eye contact, not having normal facial expressions in a child's home. If a child is diagnosed at 18 to 24 months and provided 2 years of intervention, the average IQ gain is 17 points. So this has a huge impact on people's lives. when I met Guillermo Sapiro, and he showed me that we could do what I've been doing in the clinic using a computer, that was an amazing moment for me.
So I've been doing computer vision and machine learning basically all my life. Using computer vision and machine learning, we wanted to see if we could help create an automatic analysis of autism and autism spectrum disorder.
Guillermo can use computer vision analysis to assess things like facial expression and attention. And so we built a set of movies that elicit these behaviors. And then we can show these on either a smartphone or a smart tablet and use the camera in the device to measure the child's response.
Data gets sent out from the phone to the cloud, and then we would be able to analyze that data, run through our algorithms to produce our estimates of where the person is looking at. Now that we have this tool, what we hope to do is combine the eye tracking data, the gaze data, along with the motion, and jointly see if they can help in the assessment of the risk of autism.
Families simply don't have access to the professionals that they need. The idea that we could use technology to increase access, that's just a wonderful thought to me.
Every minute, every hour that you're able to implement those strategies, that's helping your child learn that social development and learn it with you. And as a parent, that is really rewarding.
I think that if we can do just a small thing to change one kid, I think I would go to sleep with a smile.
Thank you everyone for your attention, and we really are keen to hear from you and your use cases and explore together the possibilities that lie ahead. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much indeed, Eleni. And I don't know about anyone else, but I've got a whole bunch of questions that I'd like to ask you. So our second speaker is our homegrown, Sandeep Kumar, who is the Executive Director and Chief Digital Officer at Gold Coast Hospital and Health Service. Sandeep has established a number of new functions, including digital experience, data science and transformation, which they are enabling the Gold Coast Hospital to co-design, build and deploy digital products and new models of care. And Sandeep will present some of the studies that we're already embracing in Queensland Health regarding AI. So welcome, Sandeep.
Incredibly hard act to follow. You know, universities like Harvard, Duke, you know, yourself, Eleni, so you know, be with me. I think today's presentation is all about you, and I did want to echo that. What I'm here to do today is to enforce you and encourage you to do two things. One, to echo the conversation. We're talking a lot about artificial intelligence, we're planning a lot about AI in healthcare, but what can you do leaving this activity, this event, to actually move the system forward? And secondly, take that first step. I'm going to show you innovation that's happening inside the health system with clinicians partnering with technologists and hyperscalers to bring this future of healthcare to reality. And again, my ask from you is to take that first action. And that's what today's all about. Just to give you a brief overview, the Health Centre of Digital Experience is a program that Gold Coast is running with the idea that this becomes an entity that's focused on bringing the future of healthcare to reality today. And at the cold face of Gold Coast, we believe that we're driving digital transformation that matters most. And we have many use cases and many examples of where we built solutions or poured a technology in that's impacted that one patient life, to the Duke University example. If I reflect on my own career, I've been in health for 3 years in Gold Coast Health. I started in August 2020. We can all imagine that time. That was right in the midst of COVID. I remember calling my father saying, I'm taking a job as an executive director of public hospital, and he literally said, I need to leave and drive to you right now. This is a ludicrous decision. What are you doing? But he told me that if you're going to take this job, it's going to require two things. It's going to require you to take immediate action at a large scale, and it's going to require you to have deep resilience. And I think innovation is all about resilience. And the first thing I did when I walked into my office at Gold Coast Health is I wrote 7 principles that I live and die by that have helped me and guided me through some of the best times where we're celebrating innovation and celebrating a new product release, some of the darkest times where a clinician may just not believe that artificial intelligence truly will impact healthcare. And I think that they resonate in the point of today's discussion. Think big, start small. It's all about momentum. Success breeds success, and momentum drives innovation. Innovation truly is thinking differently. Good design is good business. Build a platform for agility, which I'll talk a lot about, and agility is all about micro-transformation at scale. That is what AI and ML is. We know in healthcare, you all know in this room, there are no silver bullets to healthcare. There's no singular answer to responding to the radiology crisis in the country. But we do know that if you apply speech to text, prioritization tools, if you apply an AI ML model to support X-ray scanning, etc., we do know that you can respond at the 5, 6, 7% mark. And when you continue to provide those 1%ers, then you get a really scaled response. And that's what I believe in, micro-transformation at scale. And I think it's something we need to talk a lot more about. Now, I'm a recovering consultant. I spent 5 years at QTC. So of course I'm going to start with a problem statement. Where are we? This is not a mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive set of tasks or set of issues, but things that we often talk about. We are in a workforce crisis. We say 2030, that's nearly 6 years away. Our consumer landscape is changing. The behaviours of patients are changing each day. They expect the same experiences from a service industry that healthcare is as they're getting from other service industries like Uber, like Netflix. We know that health quality and health equity are challenging feats that we're responding to. We know that we still drive a lot of low-value care and health systems. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and explain to you all the problems, but if we're going to think about digital transformation, we need to think about the actual problems that our clinicians are facing each day. We talk about these statements as if they were ubiquitous, but if you're a nurse unit manager in a ward, in a surgical ward, you often will arrive on a Monday and you'll have 5% of your staff short, you'll be 15% over budget, you'll have 6 patients waiting in an emergency department to get into your ward, and you'll have 7 patients that haven't been discharged yet because they haven't got access to a diagnostic. The reality is that you can boil these problems down into what our clinicians are facing each day, and I'm confident that some of our clinicians are online here today from Gold Coast that will react and respond to that. And so I challenge you with this question. We have exponential challenges. So this year's workforce shortage is 2%, it'll be next year's 4%, it'll be the year after 6%. I'm just giving abstract numbers. But ask yourself this question, are we just incrementally responding? Are we truly responding to an exponential challenge? And I think that's where technology can help. So, of course, today's focus is on digital transformation, but there are many other things that we're doing. Workforce innovation, hybrid healthcare, we're changing care delivery, we're looking at health literacy and equity, we're looking at how partnerships can help us evolve health. But today is all about digital, and I'm going to double click in that space. So at Gold Coast, we've spent 3 years building what I call an open, organic, and hybrid innovation platform. And what I mean by that is, when I think about most hospital systems in Australia, I still see requirement gathering, procurement, and then a traditional project, a waterfall project being implemented, which is resulting in 24 months of procurement, requirements gathering, and then innovation. And I believe that that way is gone. That's the old way of working. And what we've built in Gold Coast is an open, organic, and hybrid way to innovate. And what we mean by that is we have our own capability. You'll hear me talk about this in the next few slides, about building robotic process automation, about building digital applications, about building workflows, about building advanced analytics products. As much as we partner with industry where we don't have the capability to meet the gaps that we can't meet, and it comes into this equation where our innovation product and our innovation platform is quite scaled in that some is externally led, but a lot is internally led, and you'll hear me talk a lot about that today. And just think, Gold Coast 3 years ago, we were requirements gathering, procurement, waterfall projects. We're no longer operating in that way. And so people ask me this question, why healthcare? Why did you build a platform to drive internal innovation? Do we even have the skills to do so? And I'd argue we do. And it's based on these 6 core areas. One, when we do technology innovation, we build in context. We put the clinician in front of the change. We don't wait for them to get the experience at the end. We ask them, if we could do X, what would you do? Rather than throwing AI at a clinician, for example, we say, what are your true problems? How can we help respond to that? So a lot of our solutions are built with the end user from the start, and I think it's a different way of working. We focus deeply on experience. Simple way to say that is, make the hard thing to do the easy thing to do. I don't know if you all know S4HANA, I'm not going to criticize it, but it's really hard to go and approve an invoice. It should be really easy. It's a layman's example. if we're starting to think about advanced analytics, like the ability to predict a patient pathway upon arrival, will make it really easy for a clinician to understand it and then make it even easier for the system to make the right decision. So focus deeply on experience, but innovate for impact. And again, I'm not going to talk and sweat each of these points. That is, don't do digital transformation for the sake of it. We're not technologists that need a task. We are driving system change that's resulting in a social outcome in the public sector. That's exactly what we want. We want citizens to get better healthcare experiences. We don't want to talk about amazing AI use cases that sit on the shelf. And I think I've already kind of touched on this now. So at Gold Coast, we have 6 main areas that we're focused deeply on. Digital applications, you would have seen Adam Brand talk about Kira at CEQ Showcased. We're building digital workflows that are stringing together multiple systems across a workflow. So rather than a clinician have to traverse with 6, 7, 8 systems to do work, they're interversing with one system. We build a lot of automations and integrations. Very proud of that team of 3 people. In 8 months have delivered over 30,000 hours of productivity in our system. My favourite one of automation is a statewide system to a statewide system that's resulted in a saving of 7 FTE. That's amazing, extremely scalable. Advanced analytics, which is what I'm going to talk about today. I learned the hard way that I can't say AI and ML as a cluster because they're not one thing. So we talk a lot about advanced analytics and we'll talk a lot about those examples today. Digital assistant, so it's where we're using the robocall version or some of the versions that use Dr. Lenny in practice. And then bundles, where we're bundling a set of products together, and I'll have an example about that today. In terms of AI and ML or advanced analytics, if I double click on in that space, these are the 5 areas that we're deeply focused on at Gold Coast. So machine learning, NLP, computer vision, generative AI, and speech. And I'll give you examples across this domain about how we're using these capabilities to drive the future of healthcare today. Our AI and ML pipeline, a very small team, but delivering a significant amount of impact. That's that principle I have. Think big, but start small. Don't wait to build a huge engineering data science practice. With 2 or 3 people with the right technology and the right partnership, you can drive quite scalable change. And so the areas that we're focused on right now, waitlist management, roster generation, and I'm going to give you the stories behind all these products. Being able to predict long stay patients, an amazing partnership with Amazon on digital inventory management, critical results findings, help our clinicians respond to the message pool, which is the most overused domain in IEMR, automatic discharge summaries, a generative AI prototype that we're working on at Gold Coast, ability to predict conversions of elective surgery post the first occasion of service, and really allowing our clinicians to look at alternative ways to deal with that patient mix. We've adopted program and assistance for using LLMs for our technologists, post-operative hypertension project, which is in a research phase, and our content and context from clinical notes project as well. They're the things that we're doing on the Gold Coast. So yes, Harvard, yes, Duke, but also yes, Gold Coast. So the first one, I'll tell you the story about this. So Dr. Kim, he spends 1 week every 2nd month rostering a junior doctor cohort at Gold Coast. He approached me about a year ago with a problem. He had a problem that he's investing about 40 hours every 2nd month of his clinical time rostering. And he said that he uses about 243 rules if he was to write them all down, but he uses an amazing technology called Microsoft Excel to do it. And there has to be a better way. And the problems he had was, we'll talk about ML biases, but what about all the biases that Dr. Kim has, that we don't talk about, of actually all the manual work he has to do to build a roster? Now, we know that roster generation is a massive problem in healthcare. In emergency departments alone at Gold Coast University Hospital, there are 4 nurses dedicated to that. There are 4 consultants that do different levels of roster. That's just one team. If you go to a radiologist department, they generally have 2, 3, 4 people dedicated to the roster. For the radiographers, radiologists, all their ward clerks. We know that this is a broad problem. It may not be as exciting as building a human brain using a deep learning model, but we know that everyone can benefit from this. And so what we did was we partnered with Dr. Kim on a 16-week sprint with 2 people to build an ML-generated roster. The problem was time to produce. Clinicians spending a significant amount of time. We're having staff deficits. When there is a staff member that's gone on sick leave or unplanned leave, how do you actually react to make sure that you have both the most optimal staffing mix, but you're responding in the wards of the response to your awards, the policies that we're all meeting, and also the fiscal constraints that we all work with. And so what we built was an ML generated roster. And this is now past the prototype stage and is actually being implemented in the Gold Coast today in one of the most complicated areas in our emergency department. This is not a traditional administration roster that works a structured Monday to Friday, 7 hours a day. It's a very hybrid, adaptive roster in an emergency department. And what it's been able to do in its first phase, a 16-week sprint, it's not something we worked on for years, in 16 weeks, delivered a 65% efficiency to Dr. Kim. It's been able to drive a lot of the optimal resource allocations, the issues that he had as an individual doctor having to respond to creating the roster, but also all the questions that came after it, as well as solidifying and standardising the way that we do it. And a massive outcome of this has been the equality of the roster. It's rules-based, it's ML at scale, and when someone asks the question of, hey, why do I get this Saturday shift and no one else does, for example, we can actually solidify the rules to say, no, there is equality across how this roster is built, and it's equal for all. Emergency departments, if you're not close to it in this room, is usually a clinician has to operate with multiple pods. They have to have specific skills to operate in specific pods. If you're a pediatric consultant versus an adult, versus depending on whether you're working in acute or subacute, and even in those areas there are sub-anomalies. So there is a fair amount of work that has to go behind the scene to allow ML to work. Again, in just 16 weeks with 2 people, we're able to do this work. And we're looking at a program, not only will we validate this with the emergency department, but we scale this out across Gold Coast. The next one I'll talk to is about Nalani. Now, Nalani, in my opinion, is an amazing nurse, probably one of Australia's leading nurses in ambulatory care pathway. Some of you may know Nalani. She's been doing work at the Gold Coast to roll out our referrals pathway work. And she came to me with a problem, which is, I have to continue to monitor and influence the way the wait list is managed. And we traditionally have to do clinical audits and administration audits to really understand in depth who generally needs care and who doesn't. And the way we used to do that is we extract a lot of information out, pump it into that amazing tool called Microsoft Excel, and try to find ways at which we could sort and sift the roster for an admin audit to occur or for a clinical audit to occur. And we built an ML tool in 12 weeks with 2 people internally in our team, no external resources, in partnership with Nalani, using data that we already had. So this was already structured data, no unstructured data, no clinical notes, not the real rich data and referrals we didn't have access to at the time. We built an ML model that helps Nalani predict which patient on the waiting list through a clinical or admin audit no longer requires care, and obviously various reasons why. And the whole point of this piece was that we would extract the list and then provide it to a clinical team or an admin team to do the audit. This is a live tool now, and I think we believe it's the first product that a HHS has developed locally and actually put into production. So we talk a lot about AI and ML. This is the first that a team has done, in our opinion. We haven't validated it yet, but much as we know, that a HHS working with a clinician, technologists working with technology and a clinician have gotten together, built a product in a number of weeks and actually productionized it. So a tool that's running live today, and again indicating to us which patient on our waiting lists may no longer require care. Very powerful outcome. We are now enriching this data set by using all the unstructured data. We believe that the most important information to referrals is in text that's attached to smart referrals, and we're starting to make sense of that text right now. So this is a watch this space. The third comes out from a conversation with Dr. Salim. Now, Dr. Salim came to me as a general medicine doctor and said he spends an inordinate amount of time not only building a discharge summary, but also validating a discharge summary that a junior doctor has written. And we thought that we wanted to try something really remarkable with generative AI. And we're using private data right now, so not open data. This is something that we wanted to just prove. It was a use case that we wanted to show our executive team, the board, and the clinical leadership how far you can really take generative AI. And the problem was that lots of time, again, being spent producing a discharge summary, significant amount of inconsistencies. We know that in Australia, our clinical care handover targets aren't great because of the time it takes to complete a discharge summary and get it to a primary physician. And we also know that people rush in discharge summaries, so they're largely incomplete. So we built a generative AI model that in 10 minutes, at worst, could produce an automated discharge summary. Now we know we've got a lot of work to do in this space because what it's actually summarising is pharmacy reports diagnostic reports, all the clinical measurement reports, the actual key case notes, medication summaries, all in a matter of one click. Now, what we have to do now going forward is quite a deep research study to make sure that the actual way it's summarising the pharmacy reports or clinical measurements are consistent with the Australian domain. Actually, one of the great learnings from this was a lot of the data feeding open LLMs is American-based. And so a lot of our responses are in American context. And so we have to do a lot of work in Australia as a nation to make sure that we're localising an LLM to fit our context. So it's a great study of a prototype, a research-based project where we're really trying to show the extent of what generative AI can do and then actually bring it back into practical uses to what we could do today. And then the final one, and I'll only briefly touch on this because there's going to be a lot of discussions happening about this next year. We partnered with Amazon about a year ago, right, Bruce? And it was a view of how can we digitally innovate against our supply chains? It came up with a conversation of Amazon's got great technology. What is the application of that technology in our supply chains? Now, if you're a clinician in a hospital and you're working in a ward, we spend an inordinate amount of time both ordering, counting, reordering, managing stock, and we're also now used to those minor crises of supply chain. We just had one recently where there was the cyber attack in the harbours that impacted our supply chains, and when that happens, clinicians tend to overorder. They tend to not rely on the supply chains, and COVID taught them that. And so in our supply chains across the state, top-down analysis suggests that our nurses nearly spend 1 million hours a year managing the interest and supply chains. Our NUMs are spending over 25,000 hours a year managing the supply chain. That's simple things like counting stock, ordering product, things that technology can do. So we went into a partnership with Amazon. The first phase was also co-led by Boston Consultancy Group, and we built a computer vision model that's basically monitoring the amount of inventory on the shelf. And from that point forward, we could validate in the first sprint to over 95% accuracy using not sophisticated cameras and not a very sophisticated model, that we could actually monitor the interest levels on the supply chain. That individual innovation alone completely unlocks innovation across the supply chain, because it'll give us a deep view as to how much stock is on an impress ward and how much product is across the system in stock outs, but also to drive all that manual work away. And we believe that no longer will a nurse or a nurse unit manager have to go into an impress ward, start counting stock, and do traditional reordering, and really understand exactly what they're up to with their physical position, how much stock there is on the shelf. So they're just some examples, right? Again, we talk about Harvard and Duke. These are all happening inside our health system today. Another takeaway is that we at Gold Coast aren't only doing this for ourselves, it's to build scalable and portable solutions that all of us benefit. A big giveaway that I gave earlier, my favourite automation is a statewide system to a statewide system. There is no localisation required in that. And they're the types of things that we're doing to drive innovation across the system, and all about the health code agenda to bring this future of healthcare to a reality. And I'll finish with my principles. You obviously have your own. Think big, start small. It's all about momentum. Momentum is about innovation, and micro-transformation at scale is the answer. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much indeed, Sandeep. So we'll move on to the Q&A. So for those who are attending the event online, if you can just send your questions through, and they're being monitored. And now we'll take some questions from the room. I would ask you to stand up if you've got a question. We have a roving microphone, because we've gone all sophisticated this time round, and we can track you with a camera, so you can't escape. So if there's a question, there's one at the front. We'll just get Jem to grab you at the front. And I might ask Sandeep and Eleni to come forward.
Hi, Michael Thomas. I'm the Central Director of Microbiology at the Royal Brisbane. Pathology is a very technology-driven field. What I find with doctors is we tend to focus on becoming experts in our field, but what you're talking about is an area that's completely outside our field, right? So rather than reskilling in AI, what's the best way for people who are already highly skilled in a clinical area to contribute to this kind of innovation?
For me, so first of all, we have to embrace that technology is going to come. And even if we are talking about environments where we have highly skilled healthcare clinicians, we still have to find ways to at least get them to be aware of how to use the technologies, because they are going to be the first and early adopters, and they have to approve of them, right? On AWS, we have several pathways. We have a gamified way for you to understand the very, very basics of our healthcare services, so that it's easy for you to spend. It's literally a game. It's an online game that you can play and you get to learn. But of course, we have some pathways that are tailor-made for our hospitals, medical research institutes, for pharmaceuticals, and we're trying to find what is more appropriate and fitting for the particular groups. And we create immersion days, workshops, and we're very happy to provide one of those for you to see, complementarily, to see how you can bridge the gaps. But at the same time, some of these tasks can be outsourced. You don't have to always think of the clinicians as the primary people that will drive the digital technology, right? But more and more we see that biomedical informatics or the IT departments within pharmaceuticals, with medical research centers, they become more and more advanced, and they're using more and more digital transformation skills that are horizontally applied to all the staff. So it's not an easy answer, but I would say that you have to do a bit of both. You have to somewhat enable continuous learning of your staff, because this is not a one and off. And as you see, even we cannot keep up with transformations, especially on AI. I don't know all the services that we have and all the solutions that we have on AWS, because there's so many, imagine. And so, but at the same time, it is between outsourcing the things that are advanced to machine learning researchers, or forming collaborations with the Preston Brighton universities, other institutes that are doing machine learning, that are doing cloud computing, and outsourcing those paths.
I mean, the only thing I would add is it's the exact vision that we had at Gold Coast. If you can create spaces where clinicians and innovators can collaborate inside a domain that don't have to leave the organisation to build solutions, that's exactly what our ambition was, and that's exactly what the Health Centre of Digital Experience is all about. So I mentioned organic innovation in one of the slides earlier. A lot of the innovation, the stories I told you, came from clinicians that had a problem or an idea that we partner with an innovation arm, whether it's a technologist or even someone that works in our transformation function, to bring the idea to life and to see if it actually is a problem that truly stats, if it's a problem that they perceive or it's a real problem, and how far could we take the solution independently. And again, I can only talk for my own organisation. It's what happens each day. Each of our innovations are clinically led. It's the clinicians come up with a problem that have come to us, and we're working through that. I don't expect all of our clinicians to be AI, ML experts or advanced analytics experts, but I do expect them to understand enough about what technology can offer so they can have the meaningful conversation with innovation arm, and that's where the marriage and the innovation actually happens.
Thanks, Stanley. Have we got another question? Oh, there we go. Fabulous. I'll get Gemma to rush on.
Hello, I'm Nitish Naik, data scientist based at Metro South. The question was, yes, it's good. We are also developing, and it's wonderful to see how machine learning has come into healthcare. And when you're productionizing the system, and we definitely know it's not 100%, how are you going to say the small bit of it where the machine learning would not work that much in efficiency where you want? How do you want to tackle that issue? Like even when you put systems as the waiting list, or even rostering, or even when you're productionizing the system where you want to extract information from the discharge summary or electronic health record. Yes, it's good. It goes till maybe 99.9, but when it comes to 0.1% and the population is 10 million, so that has a significant number there. So how do you looking to do that in the
yeah. You want to start? There are two issues there. One is the technical issue, where you have, as much as time you invest on developing a machine learning model, you also have to spend the equal time on the validation of that model, both in terms of the technical validations with statistics, but also the human-in-the-loop validation. So it needs to have at least 2 or 3 different validation tools to know that you are getting the right data. At AWS, we also have Amazon SageMaker Clarify that allows you to explain and figure out unbiases, figure out why your model may not be accurate, and increase the accuracy levels. And the second thing that you mentioned is, what do we do if we have 0.1%. But this means thousands of patients' lives that are at stake. Well, there is a liability, and like I'll put my legal hat now. It is important to figure out that what is the legal framework. And this legal framework has to be embedded with the rules that you're using when you're developing your machine learning model, and decide who has the final say. And usually we will treat AI as just a clinical decision support system. The doctors will never be replaced, at least in my opinion. They will be enhanced. Their power will be augmented with AI, but they will be they will have the final say, and they will be the final consultants to every patient opportunity.
I mean, I completely agree.
Yeah.
A few things to add. I think if we aim for perfection from the start, we'll never get there.
Yeah.
If you think about health quality today, I kind of gave it away in my in my slides. There are 411 health-acquired complications that happen in a hospital today. There's obviously still variation in care that we live in today. I think it's not for you and I as a data scientist or an executive to answer that question. I think it's for the clinical team that's adopting whatever the use case is to accept that level of risk. And again, we're not taking the human out of the loop in a lot of our exercises where it's pertinent to clinical care. I think that's a very big question. It's something that, depending on the use case that you have in mind, is specific to that use case. But where it comes to, say, RPA, where it's taking attachments out of smart referrals and ingesting them into the EMR, and there's a safety net to capture which ones don't hit that, and it's not going to hurt a patient because that attachment isn't in the EMR at the right time. I think we're quite comfortable with some variation there. When it comes to, say, AI driving robotic surgery, well, I think it's a very different question. But I do think positioning yourself, for aiming for perfection at the start, I'm just never going to get there. I think that's probably one of my views on that topic.
Yep, thank you. Yes, I think we've got another. Oh, sorry, there's another one down here.
Hello, many thanks. Michael Schitz, Director of the Jemison Trauma Institute. Many thanks. Exciting future outlooks. What me always drives is the sustainability of business models. Now we're talking, this is the real deal for me. We can have exciting projects and they are fantastic and they have an outcome, but who's paying for it at the end? Where does the finances come from? When do we bring this in? Because if you really want to implement and make something sustainable, this is for me the most challenging questions beside all the excitement. Who's taking that?
That's a valid question, but it has many different angles, right? Some of the costing and some of the funds are coming from governmental, depending upon the country, right? I work across Asia Pacific, and we see governmental funds coming and implementing a digital footprint, a blueprint that is horizontal. And we see in other countries that there are institutes that are struggling on their own to reinvest their own budget or have grants from research and whatnot to make it sustainable. But I think the whole point of first of all, using the cloud is not about just using storage. It's not, which is something that is great. Yes, you can have the infrastructure. The cloud is bringing you the innovation. Literally, on AWS, we have what we call the AWS Marketplace. We have more than 100,000 partners. Literally every company in the healthcare sector is on AWS offering their cloud version of any type of software or medical digital app that you can imagine. And what we do is that we are making sure you optimize your footprint periodically. We do this every 4 months, every quarter, for all our customers for free. For free. We optimize your environment to make sure you drop your consumption and you strategize on how you will reinvest this, if you want to reinvest it, on innovation. And we explain to you what are the different offerings. So we're using what we call a consultative approach. We don't sell services. We tell you these are the offerings. These are from us. These are from GE, from Philips, from Telstra Health that is across the street. So we offer you an overview of what is possible. And if you ask me, 90% of the customers in healthcare, it could be hospitals, it could be medical research centers, when they migrate their workloads in the cloud, they originally do it because they want compute or they want storage. But when they migrate, they change their business model. And you know why? Because all these innovations, all the different types that you might spin off, let's say in a hospital, you might spin off and create a company or create something small. Essentially, you can create a digital device, a digital app, and sell it in AWS Marketplace. And this becomes a different business model. This becomes a different arm. And at the same time, it's data. Data is conquering everything. And what the cloud can bring is, for example, we have another service, it's called AWS Data Exchange. And this allows you to anonymize your data. If you have data from research, even better, that they don't have any personal health information on. And you can sell your own data. It could be data for rare diseases, for digital clinical trials, something that it could be useful to another biotech. We have all the pharmaceutical companies on AWS. We can connect you with them, and you can sell your data and become another source of income for your organization. And this is all the money that you can collect is going directly to your account. It doesn't go to AWS. So this is another way for you to re-envision your business model when you are in the cloud. It's a completely different, it's a game changer, essentially.
Did you want to add anything, or should we go because we've got another
Over
question?
time.
No, you're right.
Okay.
Only thing I'd say is I don't think our business model is sustainable now. So I don't think it's a question of if, it's how. And I think we're already behind the times. I mean, I spent a career in private sector before coming into health. What I see that's happening in healthcare right now, I see happen in financial services 15 years ago. And I lived and breathed that world. I do think, my response is, I don't think our business model is sustainable right now. And if we don't do this work, it's only going to worsen. I think last time I checked, health and education are half the state's budget. I think that's an issue that we should really grapple with. And it's about us articulating very clearly how technology can add value, so that we can get the funders to realise that, and research, etc., etc. And I think if that was the one action that people took from today, it's how we're going to make this agenda a reality. Because I don't think our models are sustainable as it stands.
Well, they're simply not sustainable. And as I said when we initially started, if we don't innovate, we will be nothing but unsustainable. And it's actually having these conversations and making it, user-friendly, so that people can walk away and go, hang on a minute, surely we can do better than what we're doing at the moment. And I think, if as you say, if nothing else comes from it, if people walk away going, oh, we've got to do this differently, well, we're halfway there, aren't we?
Exactly.
Yeah. Have we got anything else online?
Questions online are currently being answered, but there's one lucky last question.
A lucky last.
Sorry, I have a very technical question. So I'm Priya. I'm the program manager for the Australian Health Trial Program within Queensland Health, but I'm also a qualified scientist. I just had a question about CHOP, Amazon Health Lake.
Yes.
Because you mentioned that it records all the genomic alterations. Did I understand that right?
So Health Lake is our service that allows us to accumulate all the data and it allows us to create a chronological view of those data, right? It creates a timestamp. And you can aggregate there data that are coming from omics, data that are coming, any type of omics, data that are coming from medical imaging, DICOM data, and those types of data, anything around medical records as well. And you can do what we call personalized medicine. We have two more services, AWS Health Omics, that is allowing you to do secondary and tertiary analysis on any type of transcriptomics, genomics, metabolomics, phenomics, all types of omics data. And also health imaging, AWS Health Imaging Service, which is allowing you also to analyze and also store at 40% cheaper way as well, DICOM, really big files from medical imaging or 3D rendering, MRIs and whatnot. And what they do is they're trying to aggregate those data in Health Lake and run a layer of machine learning on top of it. So, and the intention is to create in the long term also, and this is something that they're doing currently, a knowledge graph of those data for children's diseases. So connecting, for let's say you have an upregulation of a gene, and you know that you also, for that particular patient, you have a tumor in an MRI. You connect these two findings. Every time that you're doing these nodes, the machine learning learns even more the patterns that, and then it recognizes, and a lot of these patterns that it recognizes cannot be revealed with a human eye because it's done in a petabyte scale. So this is how they advance the therapeutic pathways for children.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. So look, I would just, obviously there's tons of questions, and we've got lunch afterwards, so I would very much encourage you all to go and grab Sandeep and Eleni and ask whatever questions you didn't get a chance to do. And for my own selfish reasons, I would love you to scan the QR code on the screen if you're online and share that online with us, because we would really love you to answer our survey, because one of the most important things we can do for the Office of Research and Innovation is give you the information and the tools to innovate. So we want to make sure that we're presenting the next lot of seminars and webinars and podcasts next year that meet your needs, so that we're as useful as we possibly can be for you. I'd also like to introduce you to Sean Ryder and Gemma with the roving microphone. They're also here to answer your questions as well. But in the meantime, thank you very much indeed for your hospitality. Thank you very much, Sean and Gemma, and thank you so much, Sandeep and Eleni, and very much thank you for the team that have put this together. So thank you, everyone. Have some lunch, and obviously if I don't see you before, I hope Santa is very kind to one and all. Thank you.